coming off a brutal loss to the Titans at home on Monday night. Bright lights, coming off a bye. It was wild. And it was a loss that has a lot of people collectively questioning the direction that this franchise is headed. America's team. Troy Aikman, who won, what was it, 3 Lombardi trophies with Dallas, had little something to say about it. Let's take a listen.
It hasn't always mattered who the head coach has been. And so to me, if you're asking me, I'd say there has to be a complete overhaul of the entire organization. You just can't simply replace head coaches and say, now it's going to be better. No, it's been shown that it's not better.
Strong stuff from Troy saying, quote, I'd say there has to be a complete overhaul of the entire organization. Triggs, do you agree?
It's so interesting hearing Troy Aikman, of all people, talk about it, because there might be no person more glorified in that building and also has to deal with that team on a daily basis. When you're thinking about the Fox #1 team, he's in that building all the time meeting with them. So he goes face to face with those guys and still has the courage to say that. I'm going to go with this route. It's been 23 years since the Cowboys played an NFC championship game. Not a Super Bowl, 23 years since an NFC championship game. The Patriots have been to 13 AFC championship games and have won 5 Super Bowls since then, right? The division rival Giants have won 2 Super Bowls since then. The Eagles have been to 6 NFC championship games, have been to 2 Super Bowls, and had an amazing parade and victory last year. These are all the rivals, right? And I look at this team, and the Cowboys for the last 23 years, I'm sorry to say it, are a mediocre franchise. That's the worst thing Jerry Jones could hear this morning, a mediocre franchise. And as we put the gold jacket on Jerry, and we did the Hall of Fame thing, and we did the Hall of Fame party, can't help but wonder if Jerry would give that Hall of Fame jacket back for one more chance at a Super Bowl ring. And right now, I think they are further from a Super Bowl ring than they have been since 2010, when they fired Wade Phillips midway through the season. So as we get further and further and further from the Holy Grail for Jerry Jones, do they need a rehaul? They do, but I don't think it needs to be as drastic as everyone thinks. I don't think you need to wipe the building out. There's a guy in that building, Will McClay, who is a VP of player personnel, who is said to be responsible for saying, don't draft Johnny Manziel, get Zach Martin, who's said to be the ear in Jerry. I think even if it's just to make the announcement, if they announce someone outside the Jones family as a general manager and said this person is going to kind of help foresee that, so it doesn't look like it's just Jerry running wild, which I don't think it is. I don't think it's Jerry running wild there. I think there is a lot of people who are there. But right now, from the outside looking in, the owner is too involved. He's also the GM. Whether truth or not, I think they need to appoint some people at some positions that maybe don't have the last name Jones and say, hey, these guys are the ones who are going to help bring us back.
Do you ever see that happening?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't think the roster is so terrible. And I think they're so tied to Jason Garrett. You know, for them to come out and say that they're going to give Dak an extension yesterday, come on, like, make them earn it.
I know.
Like, what are we doing?
It's complicated, isn't it?
Because
I love that Aikman said, you know, everybody wants to fire Garrett and fight. That's not the answer. You know, we've seen Campo and Chan and Parcells, and those guys don't win either. And yet, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're saying, we're not going to fire the owner. We can't really fire the GM because, complicated or not, it's in the family. I just keep coming back to the offense. I have to go back to the offense, because if I'm Dak Prescott, I just lost because I saw Marcus Mariota pull the ball out from a running back and then throw it with his left hand to a receiver you'd never heard of. And he says, I can do that. I feel like the Cowboys right now are looking at all these toys and all the other offenses, Fortnite and Xbox and Red Dead Redemption, and we're playing paddleball. We got a stick with a tire going down the street. Last point, I keep bringing up Norv Turner this week. Did you see the shot of Cam Newton this week? Do you think he likes his old 66-year-old offensive coordinator? Because he came to the press conference wearing
asked him to.
What's up, baby shirt. And is Dak wearing a Scott Linehan shirt? Look at the smile on Cam's face. It's not all young hotshots. You don't have to. You just have to keep up with the Joneses, and I mean that literally in this case.
And you don't see that smile on Dak Prescott's face, right? You mentioned, Peter, that they've been further away from winning a Super Bowl since they fired Wade Phillips. They'd be even further away if they clean house right now. And I agree with you. You don't wipe the slate clean and hit the ultimate reset button, because you hit the ultimate reset button, you're not looking at a Super Bowl for another decade. And I know if you're a Cowboys fan, you're like, well, what's another 10 years if it's almost been 25 right now? I feel like they do have the talent. Defensively, they have some superstars. Offensively, they have some players. And in moments this year, we saw them make plays with the best of the league. But I will say this. When it comes to reevaluating what everybody does, head coach, office coordinator, D coordinator, all the way down to the last person on the roster, do that this offseason. You don't walk out in the middle of the movie and say the movie is terrible. You wait until after the movie, then you look at it and say, okay, I spent the last 2 hours. I don't like it. I like it. Here's some things that could be better. Same thing with a football season. You can't sit back and say everybody's going to keep their job. We'll do it again next year. No, this isn't that team. To your point, you have to go in, address what's going on, who's flawed, who's good for the squad, and who's going to help us win next year. I feel like the Cowboys are good, but they're definitely going to have to be some furniture moving after this.
That's what,
I think I'm talking about good right now.
You're saying they're super far away, but you're also saying they have a good roster. So I don't know what has to change, but I do believe the frustration on this team is that, and in waiting, is that they are good right now. What do you want on a team? You want a star pass rusher. They have that in DeMarcus Lawrence. He's the second most sacks in the league since 2017. They're a number 3 overall defense. You want a strong defense? They have it. Their offensive line isn't what it was, but it's still great. You have a star running back. You have a number 1 young wide receiver with all the talent in the world. There's some questions about who Dak is as a quarterback, but as far as a team in that division, I could see them still turning it around. So then part of me, as if I'm a player in that locker room or a fan of the Cowboys, I'm like, something has to change. I'm not convinced it's the players or the talent on the field, and that's what makes it all the more frustrating for me.
They need to make more moves in free agency. Look at the last 2 Super Bowl winners. They need to do that over the next couple of years.
4-5 team, and maybe the most boring team in the league to watch. And for Jerry, that second part might be even the most impactful, that no one enjoys.
That impacts the bottom line. We know Jerry loves some money.
#GMFB talking more about this all day long, but we know that there are 32 teams.